Hi, welcome to the Conspiracy Consultants podcast with your host Luke.
And your host, Jacob.
And today we're going to be discussing some myths relating to Disneyland, Disney World, Walt Disney himself, maybe some all sorts of different stuff. Some of them are pretty wild, some of them are kind of believable. So we're going to jump right into it. Thank you for tuning into this first episode of the podcast. If you like it, consider giving it 5 stars on Spotify. And Jacob's going to start us off with the first myth. All right, go ahead.
So the first myth we got here is Walt Disney being frozen. Most people have heard about this myth. Some people believe it, some people don't. Basically, how the myth goes is it's either his entire body or his head, and some, and seems that it's either under Disneyland or under Disney World. Doesn't really make that much sense to me, but it seems most people believe it because he doesn't really have a grave. Really, the myth. It's not got that much evidence. It's a pretty thing. So, Luke, what do you think about it?
I don't know. I have seen video footage of where he's supposedly actually buried, which is in a cemetery like 4 minutes from his house.
Makes sense.
And then, another thing that doesn't help that one is that he was cremated. So
Yeah. So
I don't know how well you could be frozen if you're cremated. So that's kind of the opposite. But
hey,
I don't know. On believability, new technology. On believability, I'd give that like maybe a 3. I guess you could believe it. Like you have to do some research to understand that it's fake. It's not like immediately obvious that it's not possible. It is true that he did talk to several people about cryogenics, but it like the first person to be cryogenically frozen wasn't even frozen until after he died, so that really wouldn't have worked. But all right, so what, like a 3 or a 4?
I'd say even a 2 because it's just to me it's like the technology wasn't there and like I don't know, it just doesn't make that much sense.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Let's give that a 2. All right.
2.
I'm gonna do my first one. So this is the myth where it's believed that by some people that in Walt Disney World they can control the weather with a giant dome that's over the whole set of parks. I don't know who would believe this because
That's what I'm thinking. Like,
do you not, are you like, no offense, but are you actually blind, like physically blind? Because that would be the only reason why you could believe this. Because you'd see the dome. You'd walk to the outside of the park, or you'd walk through the gates and you'd see the dome. Like it. This is like from the Truman Show, right? Like the dome in the Truman Show. But you could see that if you were on the outside of it. That's the only reason it works in the Truman Show, is because you're inside of it.
the belief probably stems from I have no idea. The only thing that I could think of is when they were originally planning Disney World, there was going to be some kind of a structure above it, but it wasn't even going to be a dome, so I can't really explain it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I have seen some where, like, I know the original plan for the Disney's MGM Studios was, like, the outside of it was supposed to look like the sky, but it's not a dome. That's like one wall on a building. Like,
well, think about this. Think about how big this dome would have to be.
Yeah, and are we saying it's over all? Because there are resorts in between the parks. So we're saying this dome has to be over 4 major parks, and I don't know. I think there's at least 2 or 3 hotels that are within the parks.
I've been to Disney World like 5 times now, and like there's at least like 5 different resorts. So this thing would not be a shape of a sphere. I don't think it'd even be a dome.
It would probably be some sort of square-shaped object that goes all the way over.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It's like a 0 on believability.
0,
it's 0. You can't believe this one. It's like, okay, what? Everyone knows there can be bad weather at Disney World. Like, hurricanes affect it. If that wasn't true, there wouldn't, like, if the dome was there, it wouldn't be true. So, yeah, 0 on believability for that one for me. I think definitely not.
Yeah.
All right, what's your next one, Jacob?
My next one is Walt Disney's Ghost. If you have heard the story, it's a very small one. You've probably heard of like other people dying, but never the story of Walt Disney's ghost. So after he died, there's just in Disneyland, there's like a fire department building.
Yeah, yeah.
If you've seen pictures of it, it's a pretty medium-sized building. But above it is where Walt Disney used to stay. Now, there's like this lantern thing in it, and basically, after he died, they turned it off, right? And then the janitor goes back downstairs, does a little bit of cleaning, and then they go back up, and the light's back on. And they're like, huh, that's weird. So he turns it off one more time, and then he goes back down, and then he goes back up, and it's on again. So what people believe is Walt Disney died up there, and this myth stems from the idea of the light always being on in the Disneyland Fire Department building.
Okay, but, I mean, this one's a little bit believable, but... First of all, you have to believe in ghosts.
Yeah.
But second, isn't this like one guy's eyewitness testimony? Like,
yeah.
That's not super factual if you're trying to. It's like, oh, this guy, he was there all by himself and he saw the light go off and then it went back on. Yeah, you could believe it.
It's because people need an explanation for everything, though. It's because why would they keep the light on? Well, maybe it's just for a tribute. No, it's gotta be a ghost because, you know.
Yeah, that's usually how it ends up with things like that. What are you thinking on believability here?
It depends if you believe in ghosts. That's really where it does. Like, if you believe in ghosts, it'd probably be a 5, but if you don't, it's like a 1.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good... I'd say, yeah, probably... Yeah, if you believe in ghosts, it's maybe a 5. I mean, there wasn't a lot of eyewitness. If you don't believe in ghosts, then, yeah, it's like a 1. The one explanation could be, I don't know what type of lantern it was, but if it was like an actual gas-powered lantern, it's possible that it could have just relit itself if it wasn't closed all the way. But I don't, as I said, I don't know what kind of lantern it was. If it was an electric lamp, then...
Like, if you look up pictures of it, it was a gas
lamp. I'll look it up real quick. Warning for the typing noises.
Yeah.
Images. Okay, it is it's one of those glass oil wicked lamps, I think.
So it seems like it probably could turn back on.
Yeah, okay, actually, now thinking about this, it might be believable that it turned itself back on, but it wouldn't be a ghost. It might be that whoever was closing the thing didn't close it all the way. I can't tell. I think it's a gas lamp.
It looks like a gas lamp.
Yeah, I have it pulled up. I mean, the shape looks... I mean, it might have been turned to electric at some point. It looks like it used to be a gas lamp, at least. Yeah, because it's just like 2 glass bowls on top of each other. One of them would usually be filled with oil. Yeah, and I can even see on one of these there's an on-off, like, dial which, if you don't close all the way, it could definitely relight itself. So what I'm hearing is this one actually might have like a 6 or 7 on believability, but not because it's a ghost, just because whoever did it might not have closed it all the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's probably a 6 out of 10 on that one.
Probably.
All right, so I've got the next one here. We're gonna talk about the myth that nobody dies at Disney.
There's at least been.
It has to have been. So like. The explanation behind this myth is that there's a protocol at Disney where if you're dying, like the first responders are supposed to keep trying to resuscitate you until you exit the park so that they can claim that nobody's died there. But that just doesn't work.
Like, yeah, it does, because if you were still an EM...
Yeah, because it's usually the autopsy or like the doctor, and they're going to call it well before you exit the park. Because let's say you died in the middle of the park. You're over by Cinderella's castle, right? We're saying Disney World, that's why I'm saying Cinderella's castle. But you died by Cinderella's castle. It's going to be at least a 10-minute hike back out to the parking lot.
Yeah.
So, and it's still, okay, maybe you didn't die in the park, but you're still on Disney World property. So that doesn't...
Yeah, so they would have to literally dump you on the sidewalk.
Yeah, it would be... There are very few places that you could... Yeah, that one doesn't work. But supposedly people think that because rumor has it at least one person that was the case where they passed away and they were trying to resuscitate them and they continued to move them while trying to resuscitate them, and then somebody said that the reason behind that was because they didn't want the person to die on property. But
that sounds
that's another one of those. It's one eyewitness testimony that's a little.
Well, it's not even an eyewitness testimony. It's just a guy saying something. It's
yeah,
like, guys,
exactly.
You guys know this?
Yeah. Oh, fun fact. So, Yeah, I mean, that seems more of one of those things. It's like like a little rumor, not even like a real myth. And I don't know. I don't think it really works that well. I guess the idea is to like preserve the magic or whatever, and by saying that there
But
aren't
like,
people who died. But
isn't that one story?
carrying people out on a stretcher that's pretty bad. What were you gonna say, Jacob?
Listen to that one story of that one person who worked at this world that was like on the carousel of
Oh yeah, that doesn't even work. I think it might have been Disneyland at the time. I can't remember which one because I've heard the story. So it's either Disneyland or Disney World. But yeah, that's true. Somebody died on the Carousel of Progress, a cast member. So it's like that doesn't even work. Like because like there's proven fact that at least one person. In case you don't know, I believe what happened is the Carousel of Progress is
kind of like
what is it? It's a moving.
Structure.
It's the stage stays in the same spot and the chairs move, if I remember right.
Yeah,
the cast member accidentally stepped on the wrong side of the line when it was going to rotate and got crushed between the wall and the stage, or the wall and the outside wall, something like that. Which is it's tragic. That's absolutely horrible that happened. But that still proves that at least one person has died at either Disneyland or Disney World. I don't remember which park it was at because it's moved.
And there's more stories. Like
there has definitely been more than one person who's died probably at each park. So
yeah, it's like that'd be one thing we know for. I was the first person who died at a Disney park.
Yeah, that would be kind of a weird flex. That would be a weird family flex. You have one of your family members like, oh yeah, great uncle Steve. He first person to pass away at a Disney park. But
like. Yeah, I just don't even know where it stems from. Like, one guy said it once and was like, "Guys, did you guys know?" It doesn't seem like that
doesn't work. Think about how many people are at Disney every day. The chances there's probably at least one person who dies at a Disney park each year in each park, right? Because this is another Google thing. Okay.
Warning, typing is happening right now. 5 people die at a park. Yeah.
Okay.
5 people enter the park.
Okay. In the last 2, so this is 2021 data, evidently, but 8.5 million people attended Disneyland in 2021.
Yeah, so at least
the odds are insane because there's no way out of that many people that not one of them died. Like at least one person had to have died, right? Because think heart attack, stroke, like even a really bad seizure or something could cause that. And the odds in 8.5 million that one of those happens, it just doesn't make sense. Yeah, that myth. What is that? So, I'm gonna say like a 1 on believability.
Yeah, probably a 1.
1. I think it's more believable than the dome over Disney World. But nobody dying in a Disney park, that doesn't line up. All right, what's your next one, Jacob?
Mine is: do you get a lifetime pass if you are born at Disneyland or any Disney park? Which, if you didn't know, there was like this whole entire incident maybe early last year where like people were flooding to Disney parks while pregnant or in labor to give birth. This myth stems from because the first person born at Disneyland got a lifetime pass just because they were the first person, not because they were born there, because they were the first person born there. And it's hard to keep people to standards. Disney's not going to be like, oh sure, you have your baby here, we're going to give you a lifetime pass, because that'd just be like harboring, I don't know, that'd just be weird.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that doesn't work because when wasn't the first Disneyland baby born in so Parkman in 55? I'm sure it was like before 1960.
Yeah, so like
another Google time.
Walt was a little bit different design, but that's a different story.
Yeah, exactly. First baby was born in 1979, so well after Walt had died. But
yeah,
okay, so 1979. Okay, that makes sense. But that doesn't guarantee you that you're gonna get that. Almost 40 years? Yeah, what would you say, a couple of years ago? So, yeah, 40, 42, 43 years later.
Wait, no. 79? 50 years ago. Or no, not 79.
Yeah, it'd be 40. It's like mid-40s, right? Mid-40s?
Mid-40.
Yeah, so it's like that's 40s. I'm sure way more than one baby has been born in that amount of time, and that's just Disneyland. I mean, I think on the Disney World property, there's so many more parks, so many more resorts. The chance that somebody's going to give birth in one of those is pretty high. So,
and like, it seems also like after that, and especially after this event, there's now a protocol in place. If you try to give birth at Disneyland, Disney World, Disneyland, or any of the parks, you will be immediately evacuated from the park.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a good policy, though, because it's like, it's not safe to give birth in a theme park. It's going to be really dangerous. And also, they don't want people flooding there to give birth so they get free passes or whatever.
Did you hear that one story about that one lady who was stuck up in the bathroom because she was having labor, and she didn't want to leave because she wanted her kid to get the lifetime pass?
That's like entitlement right there.
Imagine being the workers, though. Like, you just have to...
You have to close a whole bathroom because a lady's... Like, I think about Disneyland or Disney World, I don't know which park that happened at, but there are a lot of bathrooms, but closing a whole bathroom for however long that labor was going to take, hours for sure. Like, you're slowing down traffic flow, and, like, the entitlement there is pretty wild, because they could have for sure gotten EMT or somebody out there and had, sent right to the hospital and, comfortable bed or whatever, but no, instead you're trying to get the free pass at Disneyland or Disney World, and that's not how that works at all. So
and it was like this whole entire thing where they were just planning to go to Disney World while they were supposed to go into labor. That's one thing. Like, the first time it was an accident.
Yeah, exactly. If you're planning it out, like,
they're not gonna give it to you.
Exactly. So yeah. So what's the believability? That believability there is sort of real, though, because it did happen that somebody did get a free pass for being born there, but it's like Disney. So what's the actual myth? Disney World still gives out passes?
Yeah, that's the myth.
Well, the myth, that's completely untrue. But like the believability there is pretty high. I still say that's like a 5 or 6 on believability because it did happen. So
we don't really have any high believability scales right now. We're not having it.
Yeah, we're getting very mid to low believability.
Yeah.
It seems like most of these Disneyland myths. Well, we did have the light one, but that was only after looking at the lamp and realizing if you didn't know what you were doing, you could accidentally relight the lamp.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, what do you think? Do you agree like a 5 or maybe a 6?
I have 5 or a 6. If you didn't know about the incidents before.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to here's another ghost story. This one is supposedly there's a guy named George who haunts Pirates of the Caribbean at Disney World, not Disneyland, Disney World.
Is this the kid one? Because I saw.
No, this is so supposedly this is really weird because I don't know how believable this is. So well, obviously it's not believable, but like even the basis for this isn't believable. So it's said that this guy George was an Imagineer, right? Disney Imagineer, who in the early 70s was working on building Pirates of the Caribbean. So first off, that makes 0 sense because I'm pretty sure, as far as I know, the Imagineers themselves aren't the ones doing the welding on the actual ride.
No.
They're always hiring out because the Imagineers, yes, they're super talented, but they're usually in the design process, the creative process, making sure everything runs smoothly. Yeah, sure, they could be in charge of a group of welders, but I highly doubt the Imagineer himself was doing any welding. Plus, it doesn't have a last name. His name's just George. Like, and we can back that up with like who was an Imagineer at the time. There aren't that many Imagineers. So especially like what, early 70s, so like probably 72, 73.
Never mind. There was like a ton of engineers because that was like Walt Disney World.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. But like still, like we'd at least have a list of all of them. So
also, I'm pretty sure we have like a news story on it.
Yeah, exactly. Like there would have been a huge news story because it's like all the times people have died on Disney parks. It's like it's huge. Like people who worked for the Disney parks or like something that was seen by the public. That's going to be really big news. I'd say even like small deaths that I'm sure get some publicity. But no, so this is like this really started to become an urban legend type deal with the George from Pirates of the Caribbean because like the story keeps changing. So some people are like, oh, he got crushed, just like the one from Carousel of Progress. I don't know because he's welding. How's he gonna get crushed? Some people
wait,
say...
wait. On Pirates of the Caribbean, he was welding?
Yeah, I don't... This makes no sense. So this one's slightly more believable. Is other versions of the story say he fell from the top of the burning city scene, which is slightly believable because, okay, maybe there was some structural piece behind that, but, like...
This, no, it wasn't. There wasn't actual fire.
This makes this makes very, very, very little sense.
Like at least the other hauntings, like the boy at Haunted Mansion, which is like the one where the mom spread the ashes there.
Yeah, that one's sort of believable, but this one is just not.
Because it's just a story.
So no, but evidently, what really started to happen is like somebody came up with this, maybe a cast member, and so cast members just. Like they just keep it going. So evidently like it's like basically an inside joke with cast members where they blame George on the ride broke down or that kind of thing, which I think is funny. So like it's and
it's probably not true if they're making fun of his death.
Yeah, exactly. And then supposedly there's like a photo or two of this George guy, but I'm looking at one of these photos right now. And it's taken on, like, seriously, it looks like it's like one of those Nokias. Like, the quality here, I can barely see the people, let alone what's supposed to be the ghost. Because it's like a selfie. But the people are really grainy. And then there's, like, some sort of, like, fog, which they're saying is the ghost. But last I checked, there's fog on Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, yeah. So it's like, okay.
Like, I've been on the... Was this at Disneyland or
Disney World? So,
okay, World. I've been at Disney World. There is like tons of mist.
Yeah, exactly. There's mist on the ride. It's like, okay, taking a picture where there's something behind you. Okay, it looks a little fog. Like, yeah, that doesn't. I don't know. I don't know if that one works. I guess for believability here, it's really low. But I think it's pretty funny that the cast members keep it going because that's kind of funny, like kind of good inside joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta have something to blame all the breakdowns on, you know, when you're calling in, you're like, yeah, Pirates broke down for the 4th time today. George is throwing a tantrum or something. So
definitely not just bad designing, but
anyway. Yeah. You know how much of a rush job that Pirates in Disney World was? Because the first one, they had years to put it together. But the second one, literally, they didn't open it because they thought people wouldn't like it. Because it was too close to the actual Caribbean. That's what they actually said. They said, we don't want to open Pirates because people in Florida might get confused because it's so close to where the actual islands are, which was a terrible logic. And so, no, the opening day, people rushed to go on Pirates, and there was no pirates. And supposedly, I think they even did part of the facade for it. So, people were lining up where it would have been, and there was no pirates. I don't know how believable this is, so...
Yeah, that's not the only case where they're not, where the park wasn't finished. Like, have you ever heard of the Disneyland's opening? Roughest opening of all time.
Oh, yeah, with the people... What was it? Oh, they were sinking into the pavement, right?
Yeah, they were sinking into the pavement.
They poured the pavement on the pathways, but there wasn't enough time for it to harden, and it was a really hot day. So it just sunk in. And weren't there counterfeit tickets, too? Wasn't that a problem?
Yeah, and the other problem is, you see, there was this ship that's there. So so there's only supposed to be like 300 people on the ship.
Yeah.
The captain stopped counting.
That's a bad move. That you can't do that.
So it's like 500 people. Walt Disney's like parading around it, showing everybody the park, and then they go, and then like the reporter says the boat's tipping a little bit, and he's like, "Oh, it really is," and the boat's like sinking into the water, tipped over, and he's like, "Man."
Well, you know, I'm sure there have been worse park openings, but yeah, that one was pretty rough. I think they were. What was it? They were rushing to open meet a certain deadline, but I don't remember why. It was like... Because
Walt wanted to keep the deadline.
Yeah, it was like, okay, but like, he could have waited 2 or 3 more weeks and had a really smooth opening. So, but that was also... They also had such a weird policy because admission to the park was like next to nothing because they actually had tickets for each ride. So... Yeah. That was a problem. It flooded. And I heard something, it was like either the water hookup wasn't finished or the sewer hookup wasn't finished. But one of those, either I can't remember if it was they couldn't use the bathrooms or they couldn't drink the water. But it was one of those. It was like
I'm pretty sure it was the toilets. Because
yeah.
I remember.
And I think they also ran out of water at some point. So people were just having to drink all the soft drinks like the Coca-Cola and whatnot because there was nothing else to drink because they were out of water, which was wild. So I guess hectic openings are bad, but no, the Pirates one, unbelievability, what like a 2?
You know what's really funny? So I learned this the other day. So the original It's a Small World was opened at the New York World's
Yeah,
World's
1964, Fair, right? 1965 New York World's Fair. Yep.
Guess who it was sponsored by?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. Is it Pepsi?
It was Pepsi.
Pepsi.
Who's gonna go look at It's a Small World and be like, man, I really want a Pepsi.
I need a Pepsi really bad. So no, and that was such funny because so funny because okay, so it made sense. Carousel of Progress opened that same time. At World's Fair, I think. Carousel Progress was there. And that made sense. It was sponsored by GE. It showed GE appliances. It made sense. Okay, then there was the Ford Skyway, right? Which they changed the cars, but they installed that later at Disney, I think, right? As the regular Skyway. But they changed the cars. So, but they were driving in like you were in a Ford, right? Which made sense. Ford Motor Skyway. Okay. And then there was one other ride. What was the other ride? Do you know off the bat? Not a small, because there are 4 rides there.
Carousel. So you already said
Carousel, Ford's Magic Skyway, Motor Skyway, whatever it's called. And then the Small World, and there's one more really famous one.
I can't think of it.
I'll look it up. I'm gonna type again.
Warning for typing.
Warning for typing. I actually have no clue how loud it is on the mic. Disney.
Wait, I might actually have it. I wrote a paper on it.
You did? Nice. Ford's Magic Skyway is became people. Lincoln, Hall of Presidents.
Hall of Presidents.
So I mean, it wasn't the whole. It was great moments with Mr. Lincoln, but yeah. Which is wild. I've heard a story of this where the hydraulic fluid they used was red, and you can already see where this is going. So at some point during one of the shows, the hose broke, and it just started spraying red on his white shirt. And so somebody afterwards told Walt, they go, well, that really went from great moments with Mr. Lincoln to the assassination of Mr. Lincoln. So after that, they immediately switched out, so they were using clear hydraulic fluid, so it just looked like, I don't know, sweat or something if it broke, and not that he was actually dying. So, but that was incredible. The level of animatronics they did in both Carousel of Progress and Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. Like that was all. Yeah,
that was all because of WED though.
Yeah, WED Enterprises. So, but no, seriously, those were high tech. And what 2 or 3 years later was when they did what is it? The one with the birds, Enchanted Tiki Room, right? That was like right around the same time. There's a color film like you can watch. It's like maybe 2 hours long, where it's just Walt walking around the inside of WED Enterprises at the time, which is now Imagineering, and he's just literally flexing all the wild technology they have. He just like, oh yeah, this is where we have the talking birds. This is where we're designing It's a Small World. So
here's still Haunted Mansion that hasn't opened, and
this is Haunted Mansion, which we built the outside, but we're waiting 10 more years for it to open.
Because
that was a wild design choice. They're like, we're gonna build a giant house, but we're not gonna put the ride inside of it. So
they didn't know what the crap they were doing. They didn't know if they were gonna do an actual Haunted Mansion or they were gonna do a ride.
Yeah. No, actually haunted. Yeah, we're gonna just have a bunch of these ghost stories show up. I guess George from Pirates is gonna walk over there.
Well, that kid also, the kid that I was talking about, also is set to haunt Pirates of the Caribbean, and I'm like, what? Does he like travel? Does he like?
No, I'm trying to remember. Disneyland. They're in the same spot.
Because
they're different. They're different spots at Disney World. Disneyland, they're in the same section, and I think they're like right on either Haunted Mansion is the hill above Pirates, or they're like next to each other, something like that. But they're really close in proximity, which would make sense. But no. One myth that I kept seeing when I was looking for myths for this was like, did you know that Haunted Mansion has an elevator? And it's like, that's not a myth. That's just how it's built.
It's not actually an elevator. It's more of a... I don't know what they call it.
Well, it's not. It's sort of an elevator because the stretching room it just lowers the floor.
But that's only in is that Disneyland or Disney World? Because it's different in both parks.
Yeah.
Disney World it goes up.
Yes.
Disneyland it goes
Disneyland
down.
It has to go down if I remember right because they built the ride under something and I don't remember. Did you know what is it? Alice in Wonderland and Mr. Toad I think it was have the same ride building and so they had to figure out a way to build them on top of each other in Disneyland because they were so constrained for space inside of Fantasyland that they just started stacking the rides so that they were in the same building. So I think there's somewhere you can find an image of like how they have to do that because they both start on the ground floor. So like I think it's Alice in Wonderland has to go up at some point, and then the layouts are I think decently similar so that the structural walls would be the same. But no. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. I can pull. I have one more myth we can talk about. So there's a myth that there's a jail at Disney World.
That might be true.
Which I feel like is true. I'm looking at it.
What do they say they do? Like, I don't think it's probably just a county jail. It's not like
So here's what it is. If you're in Disneyland, there's Orange County Sheriff deputies that will show up, and I'm sure that they're probably just there. They do have the security team evidently does actually have not really jail, but there's a couple of holding cells in probably one of the buildings. So I guess that's true.
But it's not like
it's not really it's not like, oh, we're gonna put you in the old Disney jail, the old clink, lock you up. So
I had one more too. It was there's this secret club.
Oh, Club 33, right?
Is it Club 33?
Club 33 is the real one, but there's a rumor that there's Club 21 at Disney World, which doesn't exist at all. And so there's only Disneyland that has a secret club, and it's really hard to get in. I think only 1,000 people are allowed in, and it's really expensive, and there's a wait list and everything. But I heard the reason behind that was they wanted it was Walt, right? He wanted a spot that he and his friends could drink on the property. But he couldn't serve alcohol in the park. And so what he did is he registered the actual building as 33 Royale Lane or Royale Street, one of those. And that's what he did. He registered that as the actual address of the place that was selling alcohol. And so that he could just go in there and hang out with his friends or whoever, and it just eventually became a private club that's really insider at Disney. But there's not one at Disney World, I don't believe.
Yeah, well, there is a club. It's just called a vacation club. It's not anything.
Yeah, and I think that one's way easier to get into too.
It's literally they ask you to. It's
you want to join the special Disney World vacation club, whereas Club 33 at Disneyland is
hey.
It's hey, you're going to be on a 7-year wait list for this. Because I think the only way to get because there's a limited number of spots, and they don't make more. So the only way is either a person in the club passes away, or they, revoke their membership, or they didn't pay their dues or something. It's one of those where it's really hard to have that happen. Or for it to not, to get an opening in the club. So, any other myths before we wrap up?
I don't know, unless you want to talk about Epcot, the original plan for Epcot. That might be too long though.
Let's save that for another part. Let us know if you want to see that. Speaking of let us know, please feel free to check out our YouTube page. Same name as our podcast, Conspiracy Consultants with Luke and Jacob. Check us out on YouTube. Under the community tab, you can let us know if you like the episode and if you want to go ahead and see more. And then let us know what episodes you want us to do. Give us suggestions. And then, as I said earlier in the show, please rate us 5 stars on Spotify or wherever you're listening to this podcast. And one last thing, if you want to sponsor us, that would be awesome. Feel free to reach out. There's going to be a couple different ways to do that. I haven't figured them all out yet, but I'm sure we'll let you know by the next episode. So just feel free to let us know if you'd like to be a guest. I'd love to have Wendigoon on here. He would be great. Any other people, honestly, YouTubers, Disney YouTubers, or just cool, weird history, conspiracy, anything like that. We'll talk about pretty much anything conspiracy or non-conspiracy related on here.
Kind of just weird things.
Basically just weird things that we're interested in, fun stuff. But yeah, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy, and goodbye.
Bye.